Se me ha acabado el presupuesto para dubstep y partículas. Así que aquí la tenéis, la intro de Necro for Fun.
El puto amo. Take us away, Adam.
All right, so are we ready to go? Yeah? Okay. So we've got kind of three big goals for class updates. We've got a lot going on. I'm going to try and breeze through a little quick in the interest of time.
Muchos cambios a las clases.
A very high volume of meaningful class updates. And what I mean by meaningful is, you know, not just moving numbers up and down on things.
No es solo una cuestión de cambiar números.
Kind of either updating systems of how things interact at a systemic level, or adding things that are really, really powerful and are actually going to move the needle and change how you interact with the class or the skill or the legendary.
Vamos a cambiar cosas, no números.
Next one is making flat damage effects more viable. So by flat damage, I'm talking about things like dust devils, earthquakes, dancing bolts, all these things. I talked a few Campfire chats ago about how I wanted to make these things like a lot more viable and scale better, and we're going to be making good on that in Season 4.
Bien.
I'm excited we'll go into more
Vamos a hacer que el daño plano funcione mucho mejor, que no sea solo una cuestión de conseguir el overpower más tocho del juego.
Designs to be more generally useful. So kind of similar to item affixes, how you've got these like multi-conditional things. We're going through classes across the board and going and looking for ways that we can open up things. You know, so you're going to find that things that were a little more restrictive, we're going to try and interact with more different pieces.
Y vamos a hacer que determinadas cosas interactúen con muchas más cosas para que no sea tan concreto. No sea un berserker vulnerable overpower o no funciona. Entonces van a hacer que haya muchas más cosas que sean útiles.
Yeah, in addition to those three things, those are our goals. I'm also going to be talking a little bit today about PTR balance and hardcore updates. And PSA, everything that you see here right now, the tuning is still in flux. We're going through the balancing process right now of these things, so any exact numbers that you see of updates is very much subject to change, not only before PTR, but of course one of our goals for you playing PTR is helping us with the tuning and balance, because everything is going to be changing. So yeah, expect things to change, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Bien.
So first, let's talk about uniques. So in Season 4, you're going to be getting double the normal amount of uniques added to the game. Normally, every class gets one. Every class is going to be getting two this time. So again, more content.
Todas las clases van a tener dos únicos esta season.
This is a defensive-oriented unique. It's going to be a chest piece. So you can see the stats there. Lots of resistance-oriented things and damage reduction. By the way, in this new world, damage reduction is going to be much harder to come by.
5% de resistencia máxima a todos los elementos. 10% de reducción de daño plana. 11,2 de resistencia a todos los... ¿Pero qué burrada es esta?
You're going to be shooting out projectiles very similar to the artillery shrine. So you can see here kind of in action, you can see that sometimes he's attacking and it's not going off, and then as he heals up, you get those bolts that's hitting enemies.
Necro, ¿esta sesión al final que jugarás?
No lo sé,
so, yeah,
pero esto está roto.
Like I mentioned before, we're really looking to move the needle on these. We are still going to be having a number of changes, quite a few of just things going up and down for tuning. But we're also looking at updating some systems and designs. And I'm going to give you some examples. Now, everything I talked about here today, I'm giving you a small snippet of the things that we're doing, like 1 or 2 examples per class. But when you get the patch notes, you're going to see it's like a giant wall. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing everywhere.
Just a slice of the overall pie.
Yeah.
Sí, nos van a enseñar un poco de los cambios que van a hacer, pero es una tajada de una tarta mucho más grande. Por ejemplo,
one of the pain points that Sorceress has always had is that they have kind of core skills and then mastery skills. Mastery skills are things like Firewall, Meteor, things like that. And the mastery skills, you know, we're always kind of second class to the core skills because we had a lot of things that scaled core skill damage, but not mastery skill damage. So we've updated our skill tags and kind of change things around so that they make more sense. So you're going to see more skill tags added to things across the board.
¡Uy, qué interesante!
And the example here is that mastery skills will also just have the score.
Los minions del negro van a tener las cualidades del personaje. Si le metes crítico al personaje, pilla crítico.
We also talked about like mobility skill tag added to a lot of skills as well, and how that interacts with the tempering system. You have ways of getting mobility skill cooldown reduction that ties into the same concept.
We're actually adding the mobility skill tag to all things across all classes that have mobility attached to them, so then they can interact with the itemization system, and you'll have these things working in tandem together. That's a good point. Yeah, so now some other examples. Frozen Orb on the Sorceress is getting a lot of love. Before, when you cast it, it would go an exact set distance and then blow up, but now it's going to go exactly where you point it at.
A ver, modifican el orbe de frío para que pueda hacer lo que te dé la gana y va a tener un único específico para el orbe de frío. A las habilidades de maestría se les llama también core o se les mejora los tags para poder potenciarlas más. Y los minions tienen un montón de upgrades. Llevan tiempo queriendo que el druida de pets funcione.
So, you know, your crit chance, crit damage, all those things, they're just going to inherit it from you, so they're going to scale way better with you, the player.
Se vienen minions.
This is not only going to apply to Necromancer minions, but all minion types in our game. Things like Druid Wolves are also going to be inheriting this, and you're going to get a pretty big power bump.
Se vienen minions.
We're also looking. We took a look at the book of the Dead, and basically revamped everything. All the upgrades almost are getting some type of either number or big functionality change, and I'm going to be going through some examples there. But it's just going to be a lot more punchy. We're not only looking for effectiveness here, like making things stronger, but we also like the rule of cool, where the things that are awesome and look cool and are visual are going to stand out more, and so we're trying to do that as much as we can.
Interesante.
Balance.
Cambiamos totalmente la itemización. Hacemos un montón de mejoras a los personajes.
We've got a lot of class updates that are going to be changing how things are. You can expect a pretty big shakeup of like just how all the different classes and builds perform. Like it's going to be a brave new world really here. But normally we promised a while back that we're going to do lists of everything that's perceived as a nerf. I'm not going to be going through every single thing today. You'll be able to see everything in the patch notes on the PTR, and that's mostly in the interest of time, just because there's so much change that's happening. But I am going to give you, a snippet to do good on the promise of kind of
va a haber cambios. Algunos pueden considerarse bufos y otros nerfeos. Pero es que hay tantísimo cambio en la itemización que bajar números no significa un nerfeo, porque hay otras partes que suben mucho. Por ejemplo, T-Baul, que es un 40% de daño plano, se baja. Y el amuleto de Vanice también. Normal.
Next, the Barbarian, everybody's favorite charging class.
El bárbaro era un 10% más tanque que todas las demás clases. Ya no.
This was back when melee classes in general in the Barbarian were having trouble in the early game.
Y a la carga, a J y a un Bridler se le baja el daño. Adiós, bárbaro. Adiós. Adiós. Es que el 10% de reducción de daño plano inherente que tenía el bárbaro por ser cuerpo a cuerpo estaba muy bien, pero está ido de madre.
Has a lot of it. Their skills like challenging shout have it, so I think they're going to be fine. But we're just removing this extra part.
Vale. Esto no sé si os dais cuenta, pero es una bajada en todos los rasgos al bárbaro J actual.
Some things like Unbridled Rage have kind of been stamping out competing things for a long time just because it's so good. Our goal here is not to remove these from the game or make these builds not viable at all. They're going to be reduced, but I still think they're going to be really powerful and effective.
A ver, van a seguir siendo fuertes porque estaban totalmente idas de madre. Tiene sentido. Vale. El mago tenía un error. Y era que el salto, el evadir, no tenía cooldown. Entonces te permitía estar saltando infinito. Ya no.
And so what this basically meant was you equip those boosts to have evade cooldown reduction, and then you use unstable currents, and you had like infinite uptime on teleport evades, which made you just teleport around forever. This has been fixed.
Correcto. Y luego la ferocidad de Esu aplicaba crítico a todo. Ya no, ahora solo a fuego. Solo aplica crítico al fuego y el teleport ya no es infinito. Lo del mago es absurdo. Veos algún vídeo, no tiene sentido. Se cargan los bugs de los magos actuales top, se los cargan. Esto lo han detectado en Gauntlet.
Alright, so now let's get to the fun part, class updates. So I'm going to be going through all the different classes here and just showing like 1 to 2 examples of kind of the ideas of things that
vamos a ver algunos de los upgrades o de los updates que van a recibir las clases. Son ejemplos, hay mucho más balance.
So first we'll start with the Barbarian. So I like Dust Devils. I've liked them for a long time, and not just things like Dust Devils, but all those types of extra affixes that spawn things. So here's an example of Wind Slasher. This is a legendary that we updated. So it's the double swing legendary that spawns Dust Devils. Before it was you would cast double swing twice and you like go in and out and in and out, and every other time you'd make a Dust Devil, right? Pretty cool. We're updating this now, so every single time that you cast double swing, it does a Dust Devil. And instead of every other time spawning one, every other time
aquí por ejemplo hay un ejemplo y es con Double Swing, le bajas el daño plano, pero si pegas y mantienes el estar golpeando, que sería lo que, digamos, lo que en teoría se tendría que hacer con esta build, triplica el daño.
And affixes that talk to them directly in itemization with temporary, like their size can go up, their damage can go up, like we're actually going to make this.
Se rebalancean los afijos, pero también sobre todo se hace que cada personaje tenga su propia entidad.
It's the example I tell our team. It's like always I say earthquakes and dust, like these things need to be cool, and all the ones like that though across the other classes.
Sí, la pool de los ítems va a cambiar totalmente.
Lots of other legendaries are like this. Druid, for example, a thing that has been long complained about to me is that last rate isn't up to par to other things. So there on the left is what you can see exists today, where the upgrades for last rate are, the first one is you heal for a little bit for every hit, and then it's doubled when you crit. And then the next upgrade is that its initial strike crits and does a little bit more damage. We're just merging those together. So both of those combined is going to be your first last rate upgrade. And now we added a second upgrade there, where every time that last rate crits, all of your shapeshifting
Esto está rotísimo.
more damage for 10 seconds.
Le acaban de regalar a la Cerat por la puta cara un 40% de daño.
Multiplicative damage bonus buff after last rate. So now, last rate, it's going to give you invulnerability, life leech, crit, and then a potent damage.
Una sola habilidad, por el hecho de stackearla, porque su propia entidad tiene curación por golpe, hipercríticos y daño porcentual aumentado.
Next, the sorceress. So here, instead of just text, I'm actually going to show you some videos. The first one is going to be showing that frozen orb change that we talked about. Here, so
este es el cambio del orbe,
you can see here that where the person
que el orbe detona donde a ti te dé la gana.
Where the frozen orb is going to explode. So now you can make it point blank, you can make it far away. It's going to be wherever you go.
Podéis hacer que esto es una putada cuando lo vas a jugar en PC, o sea, en consola. Con mando no puedes hacer esto.
Next, we're going to be talking about the unique. So, prefacing this unique a little bit before we show the video, the basic idea is conjurations are cool and frozen orb is cool. And what's going to happen with this unique is frozen orb is going to have a chance when it explodes to spawn conjurations, and then anytime that your conjurations attack, they have a chance to throw frozen orbs at enemies.
O sea que el frozen orb va a generar una habilidad y una habilidad va a generar el frozen orb.
So it's called fractured winter glass, and this video is just the person casting frozen orb with this unique. So at first it's like, okay, it's fine, you see a couple conjurations, right? But then as you go on,
el orbe de frío genera espadas y las espadas generan orbes de frío. O sea que de forma automática se está retroalimentando. Esto le puede salir muy mal, ¿eh?
When I place a firewall, and my firewall makes a meteor, and my meteor makes a firewall.
Yes, but conjurations.
But conjurations, yeah.
So Hydra throwing frozen orbs.
Firewall meteor sounds cool too.
Mola.
Okay,
fair enough. Stay focused.
But yeah, so this is an example of one of the cool uniques that we're adding to the game. Next, let's move on to the rogue.
Para el rogue, la vista interior era que cuando le estás pegando a un bicho y se carga, tienes energía infinita durante 4 segundos.
Right? When we first made Inner Sight, it triggered off of this idea that you were going to target a single enemy, pick on that enemy, and build up this gauge, and then you have unlimited energy, and unlimited energy is this really crazy, rare thing that was not going to happen very often.
Y ahora funciona totalmente diferente. Originalmente era, tú marcas a un bicho y cuando le golpeas se te carga la vista interior. Cuando está activa durante 4 segundos no tienes costes. Ahora es, tú marcas a un bicho, cuando golpeas todo lo que no sea ese bicho, cargas. Y ahora lo que te va a dar es crítico y energía infinita. ¿Qué pasa? Que no se puede activar contra bosses. Ah, no, te da las dos cosas. Golpear a uno que no sabes que tienes fijado te da más. O sea, te da un 5%. Con lo cual lo puedes llevar de forma normal, porque aunque no golpees al main, se te está yendo... No. Lo puedes utilizar con el boss, pero es que además cuando usas contra un random también se te carga con el marcado y con los no marcados. ¡Hostia, qué roto!
So here you can see your skeletal reapers, the wind-up attacks now can reduce one of your active cooldowns by a pretty chunky amount. 3 seconds is insane, but there'll be a number that'll make sense there. Maybe it is 3. Next one for the mages, you know, one of their upgrades used to be that they made frozen enemies vulnerable, and now they just make everything vulnerable. So actually, if you want cold mages to solve vulnerable for you, you pretty much can, just with this upgrade. And last but not least, we have your Iron
El golem junta enemigos. Es un monje de Diablo 3. Los magos de frío aplican vulnerable 4 segundazos y el Reaper te baja los TDs 3 segundos. Pero qué burrada.
Another thing I didn't put on the slide that I want to call out with golems that'll make players happy. Golem now, while you're CC'd or at any time, when you activate it, it's going to make both your golem and you unstoppable. Ooh. So now you have another source of unstoppable on the Necromancer for minion builds, which I think will make players really happy.
Yeah, it's a buddy cop situation.
You and your buddies going and taking people out.
That's right, I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome for a Golemancer build for sure.
Habrá muchos minions la próxima season.
So next, like I was saying before, flat damage attack. Effects, dust devils, and earthquakes are going to be your friends now. So before, these legendaries did not scale very well. And what I mean by that is that the damage that they did was fixed. So if you got like a dust devil or earthquake or whatever, you got that legendary at like level 25, the damage that it did was just a number, and that number didn't really go up with you or scale with you in a meaningful way.
Correcto.
Now, under the hood, all of these things are going to be scaling based off your weapon damage, which means that these things will scale with you as a player and be much more viable now.
¿En serio?
You can zoom in on this example I give. So this one is Dancing Bolts. I'm actually running this legendary right now, my Lightning Storm Druid. So you can see that, you know, it's the same legendary on each side.
O sea,
This is me just
el de la izquierda lo que hace es que crea, o cuando hace críticos, aparecen 3 tornados que siguen a los enemigos y hacen X cantidad de daño. El de la derecha haría lo mismo, pero el daño escala en base al daño de tu arma. So when you get these legendaries now, they're going to scale with you and do quite a bit more damage and be punchy as you go into the late game. This is in addition to like tempering and other things, talking to these things. So o sea que si utilizas esto con un arma de 2 manos, escala muchísimo más. Y si el arma está muy potenciada, escala todavía muchísimo más.
But they're looking at this second legendary, the new one, and they're going like, well, it's only got 3 stats or something. This is. You should probably watch a recording of this.
Yeah, that's when it drops, not after you've done all your stuff.
Exactly. There's a lot of itemization changes to make you know, the items feel more valuable themselves in Season 4. So I recommend watching the recording just for people that may have missed the itemization or checking out our blog next.
Yeah, you can tap for 2 more affixes on them. There you go.
Yeah, they got 5.
That's right.
All right, so last but not least is opening up designs. Like I talked about, one of our goals here, make things more generally useful, less restrictions. We can zoom in here. I have 2 examples. One is Azurath here on the left, a unique sword.
Dice que quiere hacer los ítems mucho más útiles a nivel genérico.
First, you can see before, it was that your core skills have a chance to freeze enemies and deal a bunch of damage to them. On the right, we've removed the core skill requirement, and now any of your skills can have a chance to freeze enemies. So this means you can use it on, you know, like charge and other similar.
Originalmente era tus habilidades core pueden congelar enemigos y hacerles daño, y el de la derecha es tus habilidades pueden congelar. Hostia, pero esto está rotísimo. Le pones esto al druida de autoataques y todas tus habilidades, uno de cada 5 autoataques, congela y mete 11.000 de... Esto no lo han pensado. Esto no lo han pensado.
Next one is Opportunist. This one I'm really excited about on the Rogue. I think I'm going to play a Rogue this season. So on the left is the old version.
Cuando rompes la sombra y atacas, dropeas cluster, dropeas granadas que aturden y hacen X cantidad de daño físico y aturar a los enemigos medio segundo. Ahora es que cuando entras en el sigilo, dropeas las cluster cuando entras, haciendo el daño y demás y aturdiéndolos.
You also notice that this is a tuning thing, but the stun duration on stun grenades has been buffed. Takes a second now. And then we also did a thing that I'm really excited about here, where
no, esto se les está yendo las manos,
stun grenade,
50% daño en el tiempo, velocidad de ataque, resistencia, 40% daño porcentual a las habilidades de granada, y lo hacen al entrar y no al salir. Hostia, se os ha ido de las manos un montón. Claro, luego a este ítem se le puede meter otros 2 modificadores y subirlo 12
All
tiers.
right, last but not least, we've got hardcore updates. So for you hardcore players, Elixir of Death Evasion is being removed from the game. It's dying and it's not coming back, just like.
¡Oh, vaya!
We've also redesigned the Flame Shield enchantment. So before, it used to be a cheat death mechanic where when you took fatal damage, it would, proc and save you. Now it's going to automatically activate when you lose a certain amount of life, and then it has an internal cooldown on that. So we've heard from the community kind of loud and clear. They really want hardcore to be hardcore, and so we're going to deliver on that. Now you actually have to be careful.
Había una pasiva que tenía el mago, que era que si vas a morir, no mueres. Y pasaba una vez cada 2 minutos. Lo han cambiado. Ahora es cuando has perdido toda tu vida, que no pasa nada porque te puedes estar curando, te aparece un escudo.
The class team is particularly excited about what's working for you and what's not working for you.
Vale, da igual lo casual que seáis. La pregunta es, ¿qué os parece el RPP? ¿Os divierte? ¿No os divierte? ¿Qué cambios os gustan o no os gustan y por qué? ¿Qué te gustaría ver? ¿Qué te gustaría que nos hicieras? ¿Qué cosas cambiarías? Todas las opiniones son válidas.
And then last but not least, we want to know what would you like to see that didn't make it in, right? We're forever going to be updating this game, and we really want to know, a lot of these changes are coming from your feedback, like, flat damage scaling, unstoppable.
Dice que todos estos cambios o casi todos vienen del feedback y que necesitan más para seguir escalando el juego. Esto es el resultado de vosotros diciéndonos cómo queréis que sea el juego, a dónde queréis llevarlo.
So yeah, that's pretty much everything we got for classes. Thanks everybody.
Y ese es el balance.
We're excited.
Like ton of information for classes, and it's funny because everyone's treating this PTR feedback slide as if we're done.
No. There's more. There's a lot more.
I'm sorry.
He hasn't even gotten started yet.
As the chat calls it, Joe Pipe or Rap God has not spoken yet. So he will be talking here now about Endgame.
Hora de ver en qué vamos a utilizar todo el poder que nos acaban de comentar.
We're going to talk about some new content stuff in just a minute, but there are some other things that are also changing at the same time.
Van a haber dos cosas, cambios a lo que ya hay y cosas nuevas.
We've made adjustments to world tiers in that we've changed the XP modifier that you get for opting into certain world tiers. So, so the reason why we're doing this, we want to get players to endgame a little bit faster. So we've made an adjustment where World Tier 2 now goes, instead of giving you 20% bonus XP, it gives you 50% bonus XP.
¡Ojo! Se reajusta la cantidad de experiencia.
150% bonus
¡Hostias!
XP as opposed to the 100% you got before. And then World Tier 4 gives you 250% bonus XP instead of the 200% that you got before.
O sea, pasa en Mundo 2 de 20 a 50, en Mundo 3 de 120 a 150 y en Mundo 4 de 200 a 250 de experiencia extra.
And experience more of the end game and have a little less.
Sí, queremos que la parte de leveo sea importante, pero que sea más rápida para que experimentéis la parte de nivel 100. Queremos que todo el mundo llegue a nivel 100, pero que el juego no se acabe ahí. Y que cuando lleguéis a nivel 100 empiece la parte de voy a min-maxear la build.
We want to make sure that we're removing some of the restrictions and making that possible, and we're continuing to think about that as we move forward. This is just all of the things we're talking about today are just one more step on the journey of Diablo 4. We're going to continue, as Adam already called out.
Te estamos añadiendo un montón de pasos a tu recorrido en Diablo 4 en la parte final y queremos que todos lleguéis ahí. Que no os quedéis por el camino.
We're hearing from our player base, our community, would be really, really great for the game experience. So, with that quick little thing out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the first.